Valve recently announced their upcoming Steam machine. It's going to be launching in early 2026, but I don't want to have to wait that long, so I went ahead and built my own. And with this, I also wanted to get as close as I could to the form factor they've been showing off with their upcoming Steam machine. So this is what I opted to use here. This is actually a pretty awesome little setup. And if you're not familiar with the upcoming Steam machine, it looks a little something like this. And I'm really excited about it. I'm definitely going to try to get my hands on one as soon as I can. It's got a 6-core, 12-thread Zen 4 Ryzen CPU and a 28 compute unit GPU. So with this build, I wanted to match those specs, but I also wanted to keep it cheap. I'm using some used parts here from eBay, and when it comes down to it, the upcoming Steam machine has an RDNA 3-based GPU and a Zen 4-based CPU. To keep it cheap, I wasn't able to do that, but we can get real close with it, and I think we're also going to see some great performance out of this little machine. The base of this build is actually pretty neat. This is the ASRock DeskMeet X300. You take a look over on their website, you can see that this thing supports up to a 5000 series Ryzen CPU. It also comes with our power supply, and we've got enough room in here for an ITX GPU. That was kind of the main challenge here, finding something that was going to support SteamOS properly in that ITX form factor without breaking the bank. And with the DeskMeet X300, most of the build is already done for you. It comes with that case, motherboard, and power supply. Keep in mind that ASRock does offer the X600 in this form factor, so that'll support up to the 9000 series Ryzen APUs. It's really up to you. But to keep the cost down, I went with the X300 model. That way, I could get a pretty cheap CPU that's actually going to perform really well. I opted to use the AMD Ryzen 5 5600. This is the non-X variant, really cheap over on eBay. 6 cores, 12 threads, and while it's not based on Zen 4 like the upcoming Steam machine CPU is, we've still got a desktop class processor here that should put down some decent performance. The cooler I'm going to be using is the stock Wraith Stealth for that 5600, and it's going to fit right inside of this case even with that 500 watt power supply installed. It does clear everything really nicely. As for system RAM, I went with 16 gigabytes of DDR4 because we're on an AM4 platform here. This runs at up to 3200 megahertz, and I believe that's max for the motherboard we have here. But we're matching that 16 gigs of RAM that we're going to see in the upcoming Steam machine, but you could add more here for sure. Also got a Kingston 1TB M.2 SSD. I believe this is a PCIe 3.0 drive. It's going to be fast enough for the system here for sure. I've got the CPU installed along with that cooler. We've got our storage and RAM ready to go. And before we install the power supply, we do need to install our GPU. And originally, I wanted to go with the RX 7600 with 8 gigs of VRAM, but unfortunately, it's just not going to fit inside of here. Now, ASRock does offer an ITX RX 6600, but if you ask me, it's a little expensive for what you're getting. So I went over to AliExpress and I picked up this gem. It was advertised as a Radeon RX 6600 with 8 gigs of VRAM. Once I got it, I installed it in a Windows machine, and it does look like the BIOS has been flashed, but what we've got here is basically a Radeon RX 6600M. So a mobile GPU in a desktop platform. This isn't the first time we've seen it. It actually happens quite a bit over on AliExpress. They flashed the BIOS on this, I guess. It's kind of a custom job. I was going to return it, but it's going to take too long, and it is working, so I figured we'd go ahead and use it in this build. It's kind of a tight squeeze getting it in there, but it does fit. And one thing to keep in mind here is the upcoming Steam machine is actually using an RDNA 3-based GPU. It looks to be about something like the RX 7600M. So we're a step down from that, but I still think we'll see some good performance out of this. And again, I didn't break the bank. Last thing I need to do here for the build is install the power supply. Comes with this 500 watt supply with an 8-pin power connector. So it's going to be perfect for this GPU. It kind of slots right down here, but once it's all together, it looks a little something like this. Not bad. It's a pretty compact little PC, and we can slide it right down inside of the case here. Make sure we're not pinching any wires. And I need to make sure that this thing starts up. So we'll go ahead and power it up. And okay, this isn't good. The GPU fans are not spinning. There we go. Sweet. And it's actually pretty simple to get SteamOS installed on this machine. Basically, what you're going to do is use the Steam Deck recovery at the time of making this video. All of the information you need is over on Valve's website. You'll need a USB drive and another PC to flash said USB drive with. But you're going to install it just like you would any operating system on this computer, because all of the components we have here are compatible with SteamOS. So far, so good. Everything's been working just like it should here, and I've done a little bit of testing. It kind of looks like we may have the mobile version of the 6600, so the 6600M with 8 gigs of VRAM. And really, the only way I can tell here is if I open up my performance overlay, right at the top there, you can see it maxes out at 100 watts, and this should go up to like 120, I believe, if it was a desktop 6600. There's not much more information that I have here. I mean, we can actually take a look at our system, and I'll show you that real quick. Minimize this. We'll go to our settings, system, and I've just updated to SteamOS Hollow 3.9, so that's the latest update right now on the main branch. You can see we've got that AMD Ryzen 5 5600, non-X up to 4.4 gigahertz, 6 cores, 12 threads, 16 gigs of system memory, and that AMD Radeon RX 6600. So this could be changed in the BIOS of the card, and I've seen this in the past from these kind of Chinese cards. So that's what's kind of leading me to believe that we've got the mobile version. Either way, I mean, it's been working pretty decently. We've got 8 gigs of VRAM here. And if we go into our performance one more time, we don't have any manual GPU clock. Actually, it'll go up to 1600 and then kind of zero back out right there. We don't have any TDP control, so all of this is going to be controlled from the BIOS. With the display I'm connected to, we do have variable refresh rate, so we can go there. We can enable HDR if we want to, up to 120 hertz with this screen. And yeah, if we open this all the way up, you can see over on the left-hand side, we've got everything listed that we need. And I do believe with something like this, given the form factor, we're going to see some pretty good performance. So let's go ahead and jump into a game, and we're going to start out here. Let's do Elden Ring. Let's see if we can do this at maximum 1440p at least. So yeah, this is one of those games that does get locked down at 60 FPS, and it's performing really well here at 1440p maximum. So we've got everything up as high as it can go here at 1440, running at a constant 60. I mean, it feels great like this for sure. I could play it like this all day. Now, one thing I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on are CPU and GPU temps, given that we've got this Chinese GPU here. But so far, it's not hitting thermal throttle or anything like that. I just swapped over to my game capture to make it a bit easier to see everything. And the next one I wanted to test here was Spider-Man 2. We're at 1440p medium with FSR set to balance. On this 6600M, it does look like this is going to be the max with no frame gen, but a system like this can greatly benefit from FSR Frame Gen, and it's going to work on this GPU just fine. So instead of running this at 1440p medium, we're going to take it to high. We're also going to take FSR to quality, so it's going to look a bit better, but we're going to enable FSR Frame Gen from the settings here. And once we get back into it, we're now seeing averages over 100 FPS, and it feels great on this little setup. So with most lower-end GPUs and this game here, if I want to go to 1440, I just use frame generation anyway. I personally don't mind at all. The next one we have here is Cyberpunk 2077 1440p high preset, doing a decent job. And just like Spider-Man, I mean, we've got frame gen here. I'm not going to enable it for this video, but we're getting over 60 FPS. And I've tested the RX 6600M in laptops and even eGPUs in the past. I find that it actually does pretty decent with a lot of AAA games at 1440p high medium presets with some FSR. Or if you want to go to 1080, you can do Ultra with most of the stuff out there. The next one on the list is Borderlands 4, and in Linux, I've not had super good luck with this game on basically any system that I've tested with. So right now, we're at 1440 medium with FSR Frame Gen on, and on the sides, this is one of the big issues that I run into with Frame Gen in Linux on lower-end GPUs. You can see it ghosting there. Basically, what we're seeing are the generated frames. So yeah, that's just one of those games we probably need to drop down to 1080. but it does come down to the game not being very well optimized. Checking out The Witcher 3, figured we'd have really good luck with this. We're at 1440p Ultra with FSR set to quality, and yeah, it's running over 60 FPS. It feels great. And going back to this at 1440 Ultra, when I usually play on, low-end iGPUs at low to medium settings, this game looks absolutely amazing. Dune: The Dark Ages 1440p medium with FSR set to balance. And even then, when we go into the settings with this game, it's just one of those that does require a lot of VRAM. It's stating that we're going over our 8 gig limit, but going in here and playing through, it actually does perform really well on this setup. I also wanted to test out at least one racing game, so I went with Japanese Drift Master It, and it looks like on this setup here, we need to set it to high 1440 with FSR set to balance. And even then, it's getting kind of low in the FPS if you take a look over there on the left-hand side, but it's still staying pretty steady, and it feels good like this. Overall, not a bad little setup, but I do wish that I could have went with an RDNA 3 GPU. And if any of you out there have found an ITX 7600, let me know in the comments below who makes it. That way I can pick one up. I've got another build on the way, something a bit smaller. Hopefully we can get a little more performance out of it. But this was relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things, given that I got a lot of used parts on eBay and that really cheap GPU over on AliExpress. It does work like it is. It's not a top-of-the-line machine, but I do think it's doing a great job for what we have here. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. I will leave links in the description for everything I used in this build. And like always, thanks for watching.